one of the most solid players, just period, is an achievement that only Magnus is capable of. How does White untangle here? Is knight f4 worthy of consideration? Do you put a rook on e1, or do you seek active counterplay? Well, he's made a move.
He answered the question that I was going to find difficult to respond to, but he went rook e1, it looked like. So he's just in a bit of a passive pose. He's just defending preemptively against any pressure down the e-file. But how could you be upset about this position if you're Magnus? The one, I guess, point that you may want to improve is winning chances. It looks like Black can just increase the pressure down the e-file, but White's already dealing with that. So Danya, one of the big questions I have about this game is if Black can maybe try for a c5 break as well. It's not just with the e-file. If Black can open up another avenue, then Magnus may be able to play for more than just a solid slight plus.
This is not me talking, but there is a tactics alert. This was not on my radar at all, and I will preface this by saying it doesn't actually change the evaluation that much. So White might have seen it. LPDO, Robert. Rook takes e3. Hello. How about this move?
Wow, I thought you were going to say knight e4 check because the bishop was trapped, but this is a nasty find. And how is this just level? I mean, Black is stealing a pawn in this position. I know the White king will go back to f2 and it can claim that it's doing okay over there. But how could Black not be happy about winning material?
Well, I think it might have to do with the e5 square. White quickly kind of unfurls his pieces and perhaps establishes a rook on e5 and a queen on e2, and maybe also queen on c5, which is some consolation. So it's so funny. Magnus actually might be seeing rook e3, and if he doesn't play it, it might be because he saw it and didn't like it. I saw rook a4, I just didn't like it.
I thought you were going to say knight e4 check. That's a tactic as well, because if White takes the knight, then after the pawn recaptures, the bishop on d3 is trapped. So that is a way to give a piece to get a piece, but that actually would just be ignored. The White king could step backwards. So I like what you're talking about here, Daniel. Rook takes e3. I mean, if you just do that once more, that does look good for Black. You are up a pawn. So what is the downside? Just that there's not enough material remaining? Because Magnus, he grinds out wins from equal positions with even material. How could he not accept a position where he's simply up a pawn?
Well, I think it's not so much that this is it. I mean, rook e3 is an advantage for Black. Also, rook takes h6 fails to the counter desperado rook takes e2. Very important. I think it's more that the alternative, just putting the queen on f6, is also very tempting, because here you have this long-term plan of doubling on the e-file and trying to win this pawn on your own terms. So Magnus is, I think, just trying to weigh the pros and cons. Does rook takes e3 cash in his chips too soon? Would he be better advised, keeping his foot on the gas pedal and, using the slow burn approach? You know what they said about Petrosian? Like, he sees his opponent's threats before his opponent even knows that he's going to pose them. Yeah, Magnus sees rook takes e3. This is big boy chess.
Okay, well, we'll see if Magnus plays it, if he determines that the winning chances there are still quite high, because that is a free pawn. So Magnus, he could put a huge dent in Vietnam's chances to medal. They did just lose to Iran a day ago. If they lose 2 in a row this time to Norway, it's going to be not just an uphill battle, it might be an impossible task for them to medal, as other teams will also secure victory and leapfrog them. So let's leave Magnus to it. It's an important moment. Of course, we will clue everyone in, but there are important moments happening across the various matchups. And if we just zoom out of this game here, there's a very interesting, a very sharp game being played between the Netherlands and the match we just left. But Magnus Carlsen's in complete charge right now, Danya. And Liam Lay earlier sacrificed his queen, but now it seems like Black has won, and a second queen soon to appear on the board.
And Parham did, by the way, play queen f4. We have come to expect exactly that from him. Brazen, brave, audacious, but Magsudlu keeps the fire burning and will try to turn the game around. But right now, Magnus Carlsen is on our camera. Soon he will be on our board. And incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible stuff. This is a masterclass, and Magnus Carlsen is putting the finishing touches on right now.
Well, look at the position. White has knight, bishop, and rook for a queen and some pawns, but those pawns are more than dangerous. A3, A2, A1, that is what's going to land here. And Danya, we've been praising Liam Lei, haven't we? Where we've been saying, he beat Ding Liren with black in an endgame. He's been the stalwart for Team Vietnam, but if he's losing with the white pieces, that seems to crumble their hopes.
Well, I'm not going to show the last 20 moves, but if we rewind 20 moves, Magnus did, after some deliberation, take on e3, securing the extra pawn, and then navigated the ensuing tactical complexities. Lim Lee, if we scramble a bit forward, he sacrificed his queen for a lot of material, but it's all about the pawns here. You're dropping a bunch of pawns, your pieces are uncoordinated, and despite some heroic tactics that kept the game going, Magnus helped himself to White's entire queenside, and there is one pitfall to avoid. This is insane. Robert, if you play a3, you might expect the eval bar to go all the way up in White's favor. You're losing your queen, but actually black is still better because after king d4, knight takes b2, a2, and black simply grows another head. But why would you ever do this? Just insane that black can blunder his queen and still be better. Why can't I do that in my games?
Well, I know I can always rely on you to find those kind of crazy tactical sequences, but for Magnus, you don't want to give up your best pawn just to create a new queen. You want a second queen and deliver a checkmate. So for Magnus here and Team Norway, things are looking good. He just would like to avoid that tactic that you mentioned. Otherwise, it should be smooth sailing for him. But then I look across the other games, Danya. It looks like Minlay on board 3 there with some pull against Ariantari, and then Nguyen for Vietnam on board 2. That's the board in the blue, second from the left. It looks like he is in an even endgame against Johann Sebastian Christensen, and Urkadal had what we thought was a huge advantage. Suddenly he's worse. So Danya, things are turning around. It's not just the Magnus Carlsen show. Norway needs to be careful on the other boards.
Yeah, Magnus has it under control. I think he'll just move his queen up to avoid the fork, and that game will last a couple more moves. You're right. I'm looking at Urkadal, who's